The shuttle from Earth shook as it entered the docking bay of Stellar Command Academy. Inside, 32 human cadets sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the small windows that showed the massive orbital station called Pinnacle. This was the place where the galaxy's best young warriors came to train. 17 different alien species sent their strongest here. And now, for only the 18th year, humans were among them. Sat in the back row, her hands folded in her lap. She was 20 years old, small and thin, with black hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She barely reached 160 centimeters tall and weighed less than most alien children. The other human cadets were bigger, stronger, more impressive, but's eyes held something that size could not measure. Her older brother sat beside her. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and a serious face. He had trained for years to earn his place at the academy. When the shuttle doors opened, he stood first and looked back at his sister. "Stay close to me," he said quietly. Nodded but said nothing. The cadets walked down the ramp and into a massive hall filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some had 4 arms, some had scales, some had shells like insects, and all of them turned to watch the humans arrive. They were the first to react. They were giant creatures, nearly 3 meters tall, with skin like black stone and 4 powerful arms. Their leader, Commander, stood at the front of his group with his arms crossed. When he saw the humans, he laughed loudly. "This is what Earth sends us," he shouted to his soldiers. "Look at them, so small, so weak." His eyes found at the back of the group. He pointed directly at her. "And that one, she moves like prey, like something waiting to be eaten." They laughed together. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder. Other alien species watched with amusement or curiosity. The humans kept walking, their faces hard, their fists tight at their sides. Did not react. Her expression stayed calm and empty like still water. The Academy's welcome ceremony began an hour later. High Commander, an old reptilian with scars covering his face, explained the rules and traditions. Every species here had earned respect through combat. Every species had proven their worth in blood and sweat. Earth was still new. Earth was still weak. Earth had much to prove. After the ceremony came the physical testing. Every cadet had to pass through machines that measured their strength, speed, reflexes, and endurance. The results were displayed on giant screens for everyone to see. The scored highest in strength. The insect-like were fastest. They had the best reflexes. When the humans were tested, they fell somewhere in the middle of most categories. Respectable, nothing special. Then stepped into the testing chamber. The machines hummed and beeped as they measured her body. When her results appeared on the screen, the hall went quiet for a moment. Then the laughter started. Had scored the lowest strength rating among all 400 first-year cadets. Her numbers were so low that some aliens thought the machine was broken. Commander laughed so hard that tears ran down his stone-like face. Instructor, a female with cold yellow eyes, looked at the results and then She typed something into her tablet. "Cadet," she announced. "Assigned to Auxiliary Support Track, non-combat designation." She handed a gray uniform. It was the color worn by those considered unfit for warrior training. Cooks wore gray. Cleaners wore gray. Those who would never see battle wore gray. Took the uniform and bowed politely. "Thank you, instructor." Stepped forward, anger burning in his eyes. "There must be some mistake. My sister has trained her whole life, she." "The machines do not make mistakes," instructor interrupted. "Your sister is physically unsuited for combat. This is simply fact. She should be grateful we allow her to stay at all." Wanted to argue more but touched his arm gently. He looked at her and saw no anger in her face, no shame, no fear, just patience. "It's fine, brother," she said softly. "Let it go." That night the human cadets gathered in their quarters. The rooms were small and cramped, nothing like the spacious halls given to the or the climate-controlled chambers of the. But the humans did not complain. They were used to being given less. Most of the cadets were angry about what had happened too. Some were embarrassed. A few quietly suggested that maybe she should go home, that her presence made all humans look weak. Defended his sister fiercely. "You don't know her," he said. "You don't know what she can do." But even he had doubts. He had seen her test results. He had seen the numbers. How could she possibly succeed here? Late that night, when everyone else was sleeping, woke to a strange sound. He followed it to a small storage room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly open, and dim light spilled through the crack. Inside he found. She was practicing fighting forms in the darkness. Her movements were slow and graceful like a dance, but there was power hidden in every motion. Her hands cut through the air with perfect precision. Her feet moved without sound. Her breathing was deep and controlled. Watched in silence. He had seen his sister practice before, but never like this. There was something different about her now, something focused and sharp, like a blade waiting to be drawn. When she finished, she stood still for a long moment, her eyes closed. "They don't know what they're measuring," said quietly from the doorway. Opened her eyes and looked at him. In the dim light, her gaze seemed to hold secrets that went back generations. "No," she agreed, "they don't." "What are you going to do?" Picked up her gray uniform from where she had folded it neatly on a box. She looked at it for a moment, then tucked it under her arm. "I'm going to wait," she said. "I'm going to watch. I'm going to learn everything about this place and everyone in it." And then she walked past him toward the door, pausing just long enough to answer. "And then I'm going to show them what Earth's weakest cadet can do." She disappeared into the darkness of the hallway, leaving alone with his thoughts. He stood there for a long time, remembering the stories their grandmother used to tell. Stories about warriors who won not through strength, but through patience, through wisdom, through the power of water wearing down stone. For the first time since arriving at the academy, smiled. They had no idea what was coming. 3 months passed at Stellar Command Academy. For most cadets, these were months of growth and glory. They trained with advanced weapons. They learned battle tactics from veteran commanders. They sparred against each other and earned respect through victory. For these were months of humiliation. She wore her gray uniform every day. While other cadets practiced combat, she cleaned training rooms and carried equipment. While others ate in the main hall with honor, she was sent to the back tables with the other support staff. They had given her a nickname that spread across the entire station, Glass Bones. "Look, Glass Bones is here," they would say when she entered a room. "Be careful not to breathe too hard, you might break her." The insect-like were even worse. They would click their mandibles loudly whenever she walked past, making a sound that their species used to mock the weak. Sometimes they would pretend to accidentally bump into her, sending her small body stumbling. Through all of this, never complained. She never fought back. She simply continued her work with her head down and her expression blank. Even some humans began to avoid her. They were embarrassed to be seen with the weakest cadet in the academy. When she sat at their table, conversations would grow quiet. Some would find excuses to leave. But a few people were paying attention. Was a human cadet training to be a pilot? He was average in most ways, neither the strongest nor the weakest among the humans. But he had sharp eyes and a curious mind, and he had noticed something strange about. During endurance training, all cadets were required to run laps around the station's massive training deck. They were fastest at first, their powerful legs eating up the distance. But after an hour, they began to slow. After 2 hours, many had stopped completely, their muscles burning with exhaustion. Never stopped. She ran at the same steady pace from beginning to end. Her breathing never changed. Her steps never faltered. Long after the strongest cadets had collapsed, she continued moving, her small feet carrying her forward like a machine that did not know how to quit. The instructors noted this but dismissed it as stubbornness. What good was endurance if you were too weak to fight? Disagreed. He began watching more closely. One evening, he found her in a small observation room, staring at a screen. She was watching recorded combat footage from the Academy's archives. Specifically, she was watching fights involving a named. Was a legend. He was the undefeated champion of the Academy, with 200 consecutive victories. No one had ever lasted more than 30 seconds against him. He was faster than any should be, and his 4 arms could strike from angles that seemed impossible. Sat down beside, "You've watched his matches before." 47 times, said without looking away from the screen. Why? He has a pattern. When he attacks with his upper arms, his lower arms drop slightly. It's only for a moment, less than half a second, but it's there. Stared at her. Even if that's true, what does it matter? You're in auxiliary support, you'll never fight him. Finally looked at him. Her eyes were calm but deep, like a lake that hid unknown depths. Not yet, she said. Didn't know what to say. He had heard rumors about Earth's ancient martial arts, about techniques that used an enemy's strength against them. But those were just stories, weren't they? No human could actually defeat in single combat. The weeks continued. Kept watching, kept learning, kept enduring. She memorized the fighting styles of every species in the Academy. She studied their anatomy, their weaknesses, their habits, and every night when everyone else was sleeping, she practiced her forms in the darkness. Then came the demonstration of arms. This was a monthly event where cadets from each species showed their combat skills to the entire Academy. It was part competition, part entertainment. The strongest warriors from each group would fight exhibition matches while the rest watched and cheered. The main event was always. He had defeated every opponent he had ever faced, often in seconds. Tonight was no different. His victim was a warrior named, who was considered one of the best fighters in his species. The match lasted 8 seconds, moved like lightning, his 4 arms striking from every direction. Never landed a single blow. When it was over, the lay motionless on the ground and raised his arms in victory. The crowd roared with approval. They stomped their feet so hard the floor shook. Then did something unexpected. He pointed directly at the human section of the audience. Your entire species combined couldn't last 30 seconds against me, he declared. His voice was like grinding rocks. You are the weakest things in this station, especially your little runt in the gray uniform, glass bones. She would die before she could blink. The hall grew quiet. Every eye turned toward the human section, toward. For a long moment, nothing happened. The human sat in frozen silence. Hands were clenched so tight his knuckles turned white, held his breath. Then stood up. She was so small that some aliens couldn't even see her at first, but her voice carried clearly across the massive arena. Is that a challenge? The silence that followed was absolute, then laughed and the laughed with him. You wish to die for entertainment, little human? Asked. You wish to be broken for the amusement of your betters? Walked down the steps toward the arena floor. Her movements were calm and unhurried. The crowd parted before her, not out of respect but out of sheer disbelief. I wish to fight, she said simply, unless you are afraid. The laughter stopped. His eyes narrowed. His 4 hands curled into fists the size of human heads. Around the arena, aliens leaned forward in their seats. This was unexpected. This was interesting. Commander rose from his seat, his face twisted with amusement. Let her fight, he called out. Let the prey enter the pit. When she is broken, Earth will finally learn its place in this galaxy. Reached the edge of the arena and stopped. She looked up at who towered over her like a mountain. Her expression showed no fear, no anger, no doubt. Just patience. Tomorrow, she said, give me 1 day to prepare, then we fight. Grinned, showing teeth like stone daggers. Tomorrow, little glass bones. I will try to make your death quick, but I promise nothing. bowed slightly. Then she turned and walked back to the human section. Her fellow cadets stared at her in shock. Some looked at her like she had lost her mind. Others looked at her like they were seeing her for the first time. Grabbed her arm as she sat down. "What are you doing?" he whispered. Looked at the arena, where was still basking in the crowd's attention. "What I came here to do," she said quietly. "What grandmother taught us. What our family has done for 1,000 years." She turned to her brother, and for just a moment he saw something fierce burning behind her calm eyes. "I'm going to show them that size isn't everything." Academy Council met within the hour. This had never happened before. An auxiliary cadet challenging the undefeated champion was not just unusual, it was unthinkable. The council chamber was a circular room at the heart of the station. 12 seats surrounded a central platform where those being judged would stand. Tonight, stood alone on that platform, her gray uniform a stark contrast to the colorful robes of the council members. High Commander sat in the largest chair. His old reptilian eyes studied with something that might have been curiosity or concern. It was hard to tell with. "Child," he said, his voice deep and rough like sand on stone, "do you understand what you have done? You have invoked the ancient tradition of challenge. This cannot be taken back." "I understand," replied. "Has killed opponents in sanctioned matches. He is not required to hold back. He is not required to show mercy." Leaned forward. "Your medical records show that he could break every bone in your body with a single blow. Your skeleton would shatter like dried wood." "I understand," said again. Commander laughed from his seat. His deep voice filled the chamber. "Let her fight, High Commander. The prey wishes to enter the predator's den. Who are we to deny her this honor?" "This is not about honor," replied coldly. "This is about diplomacy. If this human dies, Earth may demand answers. They may withdraw from the coalition. They may cause problems we do not need." The door to the chamber opened. Walked in, followed by every human cadet at the academy. 31 young men and women stood behind, their faces serious and determined. "Earth's delegation supports cadets' right to compete," announced. "We understand the risks. We accept them. We will not seek revenge or compensation if she falls." Studied the humans for a long moment. Then his lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Very well," he said. "The match will take place tomorrow at sunset. Standard combat rules. The fight ends when one combatant is unable to continue or surrenders." He paused. "Lethal force is permitted but not required." His eyes moved too, and his next words carried a clear warning. "I expect your champion to remember that." Waved a dismissive hand. "Will do as he wishes. If the human survives long enough to surrender, he may allow it, but I would not count on such kindness." The council was dismissed. As walked out, fell into step beside her. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't thank me yet." His voice was tight with worry. "I just signed permission for my little sister to be killed by a monster." "I won't be killed. I've seen fight. He's faster than anything that size should be. His arms hit like ship cannons. Even if you could somehow avoid his attacks, you can't hurt him. His skin is like armor." Stopped walking and faced her brother. Her eyes were calm and clear. "Do you remember what grandmother used to say about the bamboo and the oak?" Nodded slowly. "The oak stands strong and proud. When the storm comes, it fights the wind, and the storm breaks it. But the bamboo bends with the wind. It moves with the storm instead of against it. And when the storm passes, the bamboo stands tall again." "Is the oak," said. "He has never needed to bend. He has never faced a storm he could not overpower. Tomorrow I will be his storm." She continued walking, leaving to wonder if his sister was brave or crazy. Perhaps both. That night, word of the match spread across the entire station. Every species knew about it. Every cadet talked about it. Betting pools opened, and the odds against quickly climbed to 300 to 1. Some aliens bet on how many seconds she would survive. The most common guess was 2. Found on the observation deck, staring at the stars. The distant sun reflected off her eyes, making them shine like dark mirrors. "Everyone thinks you've lost your mind," he said, standing beside her. "I know. Have you?" Didn't answer immediately. She watched a shuttle pass by the station, its lights blinking as it disappeared into the darkness of space. "On Earth," she said finally, "before we joined the coalition, we had thousands of years to develop ways of fighting. We were never the strongest animals on our planet. We were never the fastest. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor, just soft bodies and clever minds. So we learned to use our enemy's strength against them. We learned to find the weak points in any defense. We learned that a small push at the right moment could bring down a giant." She turned to face. "My grandmother taught my mother. My mother taught me. For 5 generations, the women in my family have kept these techniques alive." "You really think you can win?" "I know I can." Something in her voice made believe her. Not hope, not confidence, certainty. She spoke like someone who had already seen the outcome and was simply waiting for time to catch up. "Is there anything I can do to help?" he asked. "Considered this. Tomorrow, when I win, there will be anger. The will not accept defeat easily. I need you to make sure the other humans are safe. Get them out of the arena as soon as the match ends." "You said when you win, not if." "Yes." Shook his head slowly, but he was smiling. "You're either the bravest human who ever lived or the most insane. Maybe both." "Maybe," agreed. The hours passed, returned to her quarters and slept deeply and peacefully, like someone without a worry in the world. Around her, the station buzzed with excitement and anticipation. This was the most interesting thing to happen at the Academy in years. When sunset came, the arena was packed beyond capacity. Aliens filled every seat, stood in every aisle, and watched from every balcony. Holographic displays floated above the fighting floor, ready to show the action to those too far away to see clearly. The human delegation sat together in a small section, surrounded by aliens who looked at them with pity or amusement. Sat with his hands clasped tight, his jaw clenched. Beside him, kept his eyes on the exits, planning escape routes. High Commander rose from his seat and raised a hand for silence. The crowd slowly quieted. "Today we witness a match of challenge," he announced. "Cadet of Earth has challenged Champion of. This is a sacred tradition. The fight will continue until one combatant cannot continue or surrenders." He paused and looked at the 2 entrances to the arena. "Bring forth the combatants." The entrance burst open first, marched in like a conquering hero, his 4 arms raised high. He wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like black gold. His tusks had been sharpened to deadly points. Each footstep shook the floor. The crowd erupted in cheers, chanted his name. Other species stomped their feet in approval. This was their champion, their undefeated legend. Then the human entrance opened. Walked in alone. She wore simple training clothes, loose and light. No armor, no weapons. Her feet were bare against the cold metal floor. Her hair was tied back in its usual simple ponytail. The cheers turned to confusion, then to mockery. "She doesn't even have the dignity to dress for death," someone shouted. "Glass bones, glass bones, glass bones," they chanted. Walked to the center of the arena and stopped. She stood perfectly still, her hands at her sides, her breathing slow and even. Across from her, grinned like a predator about to feast. High Commander raised his hand one final time. "Begin." The moment High Commander's hand dropped, charged. He was impossibly fast for his size. 3 massive steps crossed the distance between them in less than a second. His lower arms swept wide to trap her. His upper arms came down like hammers, ready to crush her skull into the metal floor. Did not move. The crowd gasped. Some covered their eyes. This was it. This was the moment the foolish human would be splattered across the arena. Some aliens were already laughing, already celebrating another easy victory for their champion. But the killing blow never landed. At the last possible instant moved. It was not a dodge. It was not a retreat. She stepped forward into the attack, her body flowing like water around his strikes. His upper arms passed over her head by centimeters. His lower arms closed on empty air where she had been standing a moment before. And then she touched him. It was so quick that the cameras barely captured it. Her small hand found a spot where his upper right arm connected to his shoulder. Her fingers pressed with precise, impossible accuracy against a nerve cluster that no one had ever thought to protect. His right arms went limp. They dropped to his sides like dead weight, completely useless. He stumbled forward, thrown off balance by the sudden loss of control. His eyes went wide with shock and confusion. What, he started to say, but was already moving again. She was behind him now, her bare feet silent against the floor. Her fingers struck another point at the base of his spine, where the nerves controlling his left leg connected to his body. His leg buckled. He fell to one knee. The arena was completely silent. No one cheered, no one laughed, no one even breathed. Roared with rage and spun, his remaining arms slashing through the air like blades, but was not there anymore. She was always somewhere else, always one step ahead, her movements impossibly precise and impossibly fast. She did not fight like a warrior, she fought like a ghost. Another strike, another nerve cluster, his left arms went limp. Another strike, his right leg stopped responding. Was on his hands and knees now, his forearms hanging useless at his sides. His legs trembled with the effort of keeping him upright. His breath came in ragged gasps. His eyes were wild with something that looked like fear. In his entire life, no opponent had ever touched him. In his 200 consecutive victories, he had never felt pain. He was the undefeated champion, the pride of the greatest warrior at the academy. And a human girl in gray clothes had taken him apart in seconds. Impossible, he gasped. This is impossible. Stood behind him now, perfectly calm. Her breathing had not changed. Her expression showed no anger, no satisfaction, no pride, just quiet concentration. She placed 2 fingers against the artery in his neck. One push and the blood flow to his brain would stop. He would be unconscious in moments. He would be dead soon after. Yield, she said softly. The word echoed through the silent arena. Every alien in the station heard it. Every eye was fixed on the scene before them. Trembled, his body shook with rage and humiliation. His stone-like skin had turned pale. For a long moment, it seemed like he might refuse. It seemed like he might force her to kill him rather than accept defeat. Commander was on his feet, his forearms gripping the railing so hard the metal bent. His face was twisted with disbelief and fury. "Get up," he screamed at his champion. "Get up and fight, do not shame us like this." But could not get up. His limbs would not obey him. His body had been shut down by hands so small they could not even wrap around his wrist. Waited patiently, her fingers still pressed to his neck. She could wait all day. She had been waiting for 3 months. A few more seconds meant nothing. Finally spoke. The words came out like broken glass. "I yield." For a moment nothing happened, then removed her fingers and stepped back. She bowed slightly to her fallen opponent, the same bow she had given instructor when receiving her gray uniform. Respectful, formal, completely sincere. Then she turned and began walking toward the human section. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. The aliens stared at her. They stared at, who remained on his knees, his head bowed in shame. They stared at the holographic displays that showed the match timer. 8 seconds. The entire fight had lasted 8 seconds. Was the first to react. He stood up and started clapping. The sound echoed through the quiet arena like thunder. joined him, then the other human cadets. One by one they rose to their feet, their applause building into a roar. And then something unexpected happened. In the back of the arena stood up and began clapping. Then a group of, then more, slowly, impossibly, aliens from every species began to join. Not all of them, not even most of them, but enough. Enough to recognize what they had witnessed. Not brutality, not luck, not some trick or cheat. Mastery. High Commander watched from his seat, his old eyes unreadable. When the applause finally began to fade, he rose and walked to the center of the arena. He stood over who still had not moved. "The match is decided," announced. "Cadet of Earth is the victor." He turned to face the human section, and for just a moment, his lips curved into something that was almost a smile. "It seems we have underestimated our members." Medical staff rushed in to help. They ran scans on his body, trying to understand what had happened to him. The nerve clusters had targeted were already beginning to recover. Within an hour, he would have full function again. She had not damaged him permanently. She had simply turned him off. The medics looked at each other with expressions of shock and confusion. They had never seen anything like this. Their warrior training focused on breaking bones and tearing flesh. The idea of defeating an enemy without leaving a scratch was completely foreign to them. Reached the human section and was immediately surrounded by her fellow cadets. They slapped her on the back, shook her hand, shouted her name, pushed through the crowd and grabbed her in a tight hug. "You did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You actually did it. I told you I would." Appeared beside them, his face split by a wide grin. "The odds were 300 to 1. I bet everything I had on you." Looked at him with surprise. "You believed I would win." "Not really," he admitted, "but I believed you believed it, and that was enough." The celebration continued, but eyes drifted back to the arena. Was being helped to his feet now, his arms and legs slowly responding again. He looked in her direction and their eyes met. She expected to see anger, hatred, the promise of revenge. But instead she saw something else, something that looked almost like respect. Nodded once, a small gesture that no one else noticed. Then he was led away by his medical team, disappearing into the section of the station. Watched him go. The fight was over, but she knew this was only the beginning. She had defeated the undefeated champion. She had proven that humans were not as weak as everyone believed. Now came the hard part. Now she had to prove it again, and again, and again. Until no one in the galaxy ever underestimated Earth again. The days after the match changed everything at Stellar Command Academy. Word spread across the entire coalition. Broadcasts carried footage of the fight to every planet, every station, every ship in the galaxy. Within a week, everyone knew the name of the human girl who had defeated the undefeated champion. Became famous overnight, but fame was not what she wanted. High Commander called her to his private office 3 days after the match. She walked through the door expecting to receive some kind of award or recognition. Instead, she found the old sitting quietly, studying her with his ancient yellow eyes. "Sit," he said. She sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, simply watched her as if trying to understand something that did not quite make sense. "You could have ended that fight in the first second," he said finally. "It was not a question." Nodded yes. "But you waited, you let him attack first, you let him believe he had a chance," tilted his head. "Why?" "Because defeating him quickly would have proven that I was skilled. But defeating him after he had attacked with everything he had, after he believed victory was certain, after the entire station had seen his confidence," paused. "That proved something more." "What?" "That strength is not everything. That size is not everything. That the galaxy has been measuring worth by the wrong standards." Was silent for another long moment. Then, slowly, he pushed a small box across his desk toward her. "Open it." lifted the lid. Inside was a new uniform, not gray. Deep blue, the color worn by the Academy's Advanced Combat Division, the most elite training program in the entire coalition. "I am removing you from auxiliary support," said. "You will train with the best fighters from every species. You will learn what they know and they will learn what you know." He paused. "This is a first. No cadet has ever moved from gray to blue." Lifted the uniform from the box. The fabric was soft and light, designed for movement, perfect for her style. "Thank you, High Commander." "Do not thank me yet. Many will not accept this easily. They are already demanding a rematch. Commander believes you cheated somehow." "I did not cheat." "I know. I reviewed the footage myself. Every move you made was legal. Unusual but legal." Leaned forward. "But will not stop. He will push for investigation. He will claim that humans use some kind of technology or drug to enhance your abilities." "Let him investigate. He will find nothing." Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I believe you, but I want to understand. Those techniques you used, I have never seen anything like them. Where did they come from?" Considered her answer carefully. "Earth has many fighting styles, thousands of years of history. Before we had technology, before we had weapons, we had our hands and our minds. We learned to survive against creatures much larger and stronger than us. We learned to find weakness in any opponent. And this specific style, it has been passed down in my family for 5 generations. My grandmother called it the art of soft power, using the enemy's force against them, finding the points where a single touch can disable an entire limb." Met his eyes. "We developed it because we had to, because we were always the small ones, the weak ones, the ones who had to be clever to survive." Nodded slowly. "Perhaps the coalition has been judging your species too harshly. Perhaps there is more to strength than muscle and bone." He stood and extended a clawed hand, shook it. "Welcome to the Advanced Combat Division, Cadet. I expect great things from you." The weeks that followed were challenging in new ways. Trained alongside the best fighters in the galaxy. They were skeptical of her at first, just as everyone had been. But slowly, match by match, demonstration by demonstration, she earned their respect. She did not win every fight. Some opponents were too fast, too unpredictable, too skilled. But she never stopped learning. She adapted her techniques to counter each species' unique abilities. She studied weaknesses that no one else thought to look for. And she taught as well. Human cadets began studying her methods. Some had natural talent for the soft arts. Others were better suited for different styles. But all of them improved. All of them became more dangerous than anyone had expected. Commander demanded his rematch, refused. This surprised everyone. The champion had never refused a fight in his life. When confronted him in the barracks, demanding an explanation, spoke words that spread quickly through the station. "I have fought 1,000 opponents," said. "I have crushed warriors twice my size. I have killed without hesitation and won without effort. But that human girl," he paused, his 4 arms hanging at his sides. "She understood my body better than I did. She knew exactly where to touch, exactly when to move, exactly how to shut me down. She could have killed me in the first moment. Everything after that was a lesson." "A lesson in what?" demanded. "In humility, in respect, in understanding that there is always someone who sees what you cannot see," shook his head. "I will not fight her again, not because I fear losing, but because I have nothing left to prove and everything left to learn." Was furious. He accused of cowardice, of bringing shame to their entire species, but did not change his mind, and slowly others began to see things differently. If their greatest champion could acknowledge respect for a human, perhaps humans deserved more consideration than they had been given. Months passed. The Academy's annual graduation ceremony approached, had risen to the top of the Advanced Combat Division. She had defeated champions from 6 different species. She had developed training programs that were now being adopted across the coalition. But she had never forgotten where she started. The night before graduation found her on the observation deck. Earth was visible in the distance, a tiny blue dot among millions of stars. "You could have shown them your strength on the first day," he said, standing beside her. "You could have challenged immediately. Why did you wait 3 months?" Watched Earth slowly turn in the darkness of space. "Do you remember what grandmother used to say about patience?" She said many things about patience. She said that a quick victory is forgotten quickly, but a victory that comes after doubt, after mockery, after everyone has written you off, smiled faintly. That kind of victory changes how people think. And that's what you wanted, to change how they think about humans. Yes, she turned to face her brother. If I had won on the first day, they would have said I got lucky. They would have demanded explanations, investigations, rematches. But by waiting until the odds were 300 to 1, until even some of our own people doubted me, until the entire galaxy expected me to die. She spread her hands. I didn't just prove that I was strong. I proved that their entire system of measurement was wrong. Shook his head slowly. Grandmother would be proud. I hope so. They stood together in silence, watching their home planet spin among the stars. Tomorrow would graduate with the highest honors ever given to a human cadet. Tomorrow she would begin her career as an officer in the Coalition fleet. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight she was just a young woman from Earth, looking at the small blue world where her family had passed down secrets for 5 generations. "They called me Earth's weakest cadet," said quietly. "Let them remember what Earth's weakest can do." Put his arm around his sister's shoulders. "I don't think anyone will ever underestimate humans again." Smiled, and in her eyes he saw the weight of generations. All the ancestors who had survived against impossible odds. All the women who had learned the soft arts and passed them to their daughters. All the quiet strength that had been waiting for this moment. "No," she agreed, "I don't think they will." Far below them, the observation deck was filling with cadets from every species, gathering to watch the stars together on their last night as students. Stood beside, talked with humans. Old hatreds were slowly being forgotten, replaced by new respect. It would take years for attitudes to fully change. Decades, perhaps, but the seed had been planted. A small human girl in a gray uniform had shown the galaxy that there was more than one kind of strength. And the galaxy had finally begun to listen.